Hello everyone, and welcome to this video in which we'll be looking at the questions and solutions for the Salin's passage. Right, so there is a passage in which Salin, a person named Salin, wrote a book on foragers and hunter-gatherers and how they were not left behind when agriculture and industrial revolution came to the forefront. So that particular passage I have read in a previous video. The link for that video has been put in the description below. So you can watch that video, and after watching the video, if you have tried to solve the questions, then you can watch this video right now to go through the questions and the solutions. So first question number 1 of this passage says that the author of the passage mentions Galbraith's affluent society to do what? So before we answer this question, go back to the passage and see what is present in context with the affluent society written by John Kenneth Galbraith. That is present in the first sentence of the second to last paragraph. It says that with its titles nod towards the affluent society, which means that the book written by Salin, which is the original affluent society, is a nod to the title, the affluent society, written by John Kenneth Galbraith. And what this book does is that it provides a skeptical portrayal of America's post-war prosperity and inequality, dripping with new left contempt for consumerism. So in this book, Galbraith says that after the war that they're talking about here is World War II. They showcase that there was a lot of prosperity, but that prosperity came with a lot of inequality. And that's what Galbraith points out, with a lot of contempt towards new left consumerism, the consumeristic ideals. And how Salin's book is related to this is that it brought the same critical perspective to bear on the contemporary world. So the perspective given by John Kenneth Galbraith, the same perspective through this book, through his book, Salin wanted to bring to the contemporary world. And it did so by showing or doing the classic anthropological move of showing that radical alternatives, that there are alternatives to the readers' lives exist. So the readers' lives are right now completely governed by consumeristic ideals, where we are in a very capitalistic society where our sole goal is to earn more and more money and acquire as many goods as possible, which is what was being criticized by John Kenneth Galbraith in his book. And the book written by Salin is actually bringing forth the same critical perspective by providing an alternative, by showing that hunter-gatherers also lived happily without having the need to acquire as many goods or as much money as possible. And the same kind of alternative we can also resort to if we don't want to remain sad just because we are not being able to earn as much money as possible. So which means that both these books are kind of propagating the same point. Galbraith wrote his books first, and then Salin wrote his book in order to provide the same sense of an idea to the reader by showing an alternative for the current consumeristic market. So which means now if I look at the options, then the first option that is absolutely incorrect that everyone should be eliminating is option B. Because B says that Galbraith's theories refute Salin's thesis. So absolutely they are not refuting Salin's thesis, they are in support of Salin's thesis, and that's why B cannot be the correct answer. And the next option that I will immediately also eliminate is option A, because A says that contrasts the materialistic nature of contemporary growth paths with the pacifist content ways of living among the foragers. So this, although is present in the book written by Salin, but A does not answer the question. A is asking us the relationship or the reason why Galbraith's book is being mentioned. Galbraith's book is being mentioned in relationship with the book written by Salin. So A does not give us a relationship between the two books at all, and that's why A cannot be the answer to the question, despite A being the point of why Salin wrote the book. So A and B are definitely incorrect. C and D can be confusing. From here, it is quite difficult to figure out which of these is a more correct answer, which of these is a less correct answer. But there is a small part of one of the options which makes that option slightly less correct than the other. And that option which is not correct is option D, because it says, document the influence of Galbraith's cynical views on modern consumerism. Okay. So we have not seen this passage documenting how Galbraith's cynical views have influenced modern communism. So the passage is not documenting that at all. And for that reason, D becomes incorrect. Every other part of this option is absolutely right because Salen's analysis of prehistoric society is correct. There is Galbraith's cynical views on modern consumerism is mentioned inside the passage, but it's not documenting how that particular idea has influenced modern consumerism or how it has even influenced exactly how it has influenced. Salen's analysis also has not been written inside the passage. So that particular influence has not been documented inside the passage. That's why D is less correct. And C is more correct because Salen's views complement Galbraith's criticism of consumerism. And it is bringing that particular perspective to contemporary society and then showing contemporary society that why that criticism still makes sense and how the contemporary society, the society right now can actually escape from that hyper consumerism that we are all embroiled in at this point of time. That's why answer to question number 1 is option C. Now, if 1 is clear, then let's move on to question 2. 2 says the author criticizes Salen's essay for its. So why does the author criticize say Salen's essay? So option, before we look at the options, the criticism for Salen's essay are all present in the last paragraph, as we had discussed before. He clearly starts with the last paragraph by saying that not every aspect of this essay has aged well. And the two criticism that he has is that colonialism, racism, and disposition have not been thematized heavily. And second is that Salen also uses foragers as a proxy for the Paleolithic. So only these two are the criticisms. So I can actually directly look for the correct answer among the options given here. And only one option directly presents one of these criticisms, which is option D. Cursory treatment of the effects of racism and colonialism on society. So D is the correct answer. Failure to implement its thesis with robust empirical data. The author clearly says in his essay that he does not want to focus upon the empirical validity of Salen's claim. So A is not the correct answer. It is not a criticism of Salen's essay at all. B says critique of anthropologists who disparage the choices of foragers in today's society. The author actually agrees with the Salen himself actually criticizes anthropology's tendency to criticize the choice of foragers. And the author is agreeing with it. It is not a critique of Salen's work at all. In fact, the author says that this is something that modern society can learn from. So B cannot be the correct answer. C says outdated values regarding the present day foragers in today's societies. In today's societies, presence of foragers have not been mentioned anywhere inside the passage. So C is not the correct answer. So question 2 is easy. So I would definitely say that 1 is difficult. It's absolutely difficult to get this answer correct, get this question's answer correct, especially under time constraints. In contrast, question number 2 is definitely an easy question. Looking at the next two questions, question 3 says that we can infer that Salen's main goal of writing his essay was to. Before even we look at the options, first let's reinforce exactly what this passage is about again. In this passage, the author of the essay says that Salen has written this essay in order to showcase that hunter-gatherers and foragers were not left behind by agriculture and industrialism. They were living happy lives, and we can learn from them. We can also lead happy, contented, affluent lives like them by not wanting more. Not by earning more, but by not wanting more. So this is what Salen wanted to mainly communicate through his book. Now, with this sense of understanding, if I look at the options, the first option that I will definitely eliminate is B, because B starts with counter Galbraith's pessimistic view. Salen is not countering Galbraith's view. It is complementary to Galbraith's view. That's why B cannot be the correct answer. And among the remaining options, A, C, and D, all three actually look kind of true. But among these, comparatively, A is the more correct answer because it is holding a mirror to acquisitive society. Acquisitive means acquisition, society which wants to acquire more. With examples of other communities like foragers, like hunter-gatherers that have successfully chosen to be non-materialistic, who don't want to accumulate. And they are still successful. They are still happy. That is what Salen mainly wanted to showcase. So that's why A is the correct answer. Why C and D are incorrect is because never is Salen actually saying that before capitalism took hold, before consumerism took hold, before materialism took hold, that it was an egalitarian society. Egalitarian means equal society. Everyone was equal. Egalitarianism is not the point that Salen wants to emphasize through his essay. So never is Salen's main purpose of writing his entire book to say that society was equal. Everyone in the society was equal. So that's why C and D cannot be the main reason why Salen has written this book. And that is why answer is option A. Okay. Now coming to the last question, question number 4. I think it's the easiest of all the 4 questions. The author mentions Tanzania's Hadza community to illustrate what? So if you remember in this paragraph, the second paragraph starts with, moreover, foragers had other options. Contemporary Hadza of Tanzania, who had been long surrounded by farmers, knew they had alternatives and rejected them. So they knew they were foragers, they knew that they had alternatives to foraging, but they rejected them. That is why the author is mentioning the Hadza of Tanzania, saying that they chose foraging. It's not like they were doing foraging because of lack of alternatives. It was a choice, a conscious choice made by them because it made them happy, because they laid more sense of an emphasis on freedom, on leisure, rather than chasing very materialistic acquisition of goods. Right? So this is what the author tries to communicate, that foragers are not left behind. Foragers make a choice in order to be happy. So if I understand this, the question becomes very easy, because the options which are absolutely incorrect is option D. How two vastly different ways of living and working were able to coexist in proximity for centuries. Yes, they were living in proximity for a long period of time. But whether they can coexist or not, whether they will fight amongst each other, that is not the point that the passage is trying to make. So D cannot be the correct answer. C similarly cannot be the correct answer, because hunter-gatherer community subsistence level techniques equipped them to survive well into contemporary times. Surviving into contemporary times is never mentioned inside the passage, so C cannot be the correct answer. Similarly, B also cannot be the correct answer, because pre-agrarian societies did not hamper the emergence of more advanced agrarian societies. So it is not to tell us that foragers were stopping agriculture from happening. In fact, they lived with farmers in the vicinity, right? So there is no point where a conflict between pre-agrarian societies and post-agrarian societies have been mentioned inside the passage, so B cannot be the correct answer. A is directly the answer, because forage communities' lifestyles derive not from ignorance but from their own choice. Very first sentence of the second paragraph, it is mentioned that they had other choices, but they chose foraging. That is the point of writing this entire paragraph. The paragraph where the Hadza of Tanzania have been mentioned, and that's why A is the correct answer for question 4. So these are the answers for this particular passage. I feel that someone who has read this passage, which is a pretty simple to understand passage properly, and has resorted to the process of elimination and reading the options and questions carefully, can actually get 3 out of 4 questions in this exercise correct. The questions are also pretty simply phrased. There is no negation, there is no except, which of these is not true. That kind of a question is also not there. For this reason, I think 3 out of 4 questions correct is a very good performance in this particular exercise of CAT 2023 slot 1. Thank you.